Hello everyone, I am Eternal Evico and welcome back to my 119 single player world. And it has been a hot second since we've last done anything here. In my defense, the original episode 17 I got, yes Miss Carlotta, I got about 5 minutes of footage for, and then I was like, this isn't working. And I was just super frustrated, and I didn't like any of it. And so I gave up. And I'm leaving on a family trip about 2 weeks after, well, more of a week after I hit that point. And I just went, you know what, never mind. I hate this. So we'll just leave it, and I'll get some inspiration on my trip, and I'll come back refreshed and ready to do more things. I don't know why I thought the vacation would be refreshing. I'm not the kind of person who's rejuvenated by that. I've spent the past 3 days mostly asleep recovering, but I'm home now, so we can get back to working on stuff, and I'll probably talk more about that in a second, but I figured I might as well show you guys what I did in Scrapped episode 17. Just so I made this kitchen area, and I thought I put 2 villagers in here, and I'm only finding 1. Thing is, those are the librarians in the next room over. That's why I was getting confused. But I shouldn't be able to escape. I don't know. This one guy. Thought I had 2, but So I built. I'll make this better, but interiors aren't my strong suit. So a lot of this stuff is first draft, probably going to get scrapped. And that's honestly all I did. So I figured today we'd work on the outside of the mansion, just continuing this little pattern along. And I can talk more to you guys about my trip, and I can show you some of the pictures and fun stuff like that. And we'll just see how it goes, because I want to get something out of this before Legends comes out and consumes my entire brain, because I am going to be playing that, and I only have so long before it does, so let's just hop right into it. So my family trip was to Europe, and well, mostly it was more of my parents were going to Europe, and I went, hey, it's a free trip, I don't have to plan, so I tagged along. So we started our trip. So we landed in the airport in, whatchamacallit? Oh, Amsterdam. So we landed in Amsterdam because we have family who lives in the Netherlands. So we spent the first couple of days visiting with them, dealing with jet lag, which honestly wasn't that bad. And so during that period of time, we went to a couple of different places, one of which is this super cool windmill and watermill combination. And it apparently is the only one in the country, and it honestly might be one of the only ones in the world, because most people just don't have the location where if it's good for one thing, it's not good for the other. So the mill is set up so there's a wind-powered section and then a water-powered section. And then on days when the wind isn't blowing, you can connect the gears between the two. So the water can power the wind section if it's not working. So that was pretty cool. And we got to go and look at a local castle that was only a couple of miles away from there. And it was a castle with a moat, so that was super cool. Really interesting architecture, and the time of day was great for it. Golden hour, that's always fun. It's really cool seeing the structure of these old towers and how they have the I don't think I got it very well in any of the pictures, but the local flag colors are everywhere on this thing, which is super cool. So that what else did we do in Netherlands? We went to this church in the city of Den Bosch. Those I have some super cool pictures of. Some of the outside, the best one is of the organ, because the organ is always the best part of visiting any church, of course. Very important stuff. Then after that, we went over to Germany. And we didn't go super far into Germany. We just did like the Rhine and Mosel river valleys. So we started that off when we came into the country further north in Cologne, which makes me insane because it's spelled like, you know, the cologne you put on yourself in English, but it is spelled completely different in German, and it's like, why did they change? They're pronounced the same. Why did you write it differently? I don't understand. So we got to see the cathedral there, and oh boy, what a cathedral it is. Wow, 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 wow. This thing is massive. It's a super tall, dark, kind of Gothic architecture. Like, you know, it took them hundreds of years to build. There's also, like, right outside of it, it's really funny they moved it there, but there's, like, this historic Roman arch. And it's really funny because my mother was, like, super excited to see it. And we're going to see this historic Roman arch, and it's, like, 1,000 years old. And it's like, I wonder where it is. And I'm like, is it that arch? Right there in the same plaza as the cathedral, because they moved it. And the answer is yes. Yes, it is the same arch. It's right there. So, I mean, that was cool for, like, the historical importance of it. And it's really interesting looking at the building because it's built out of white stone. Like, everything in Europe. Like, even if it wasn't white, they painted it white because they thought it looked better. But it's darker closer to the tops. And I actually haven't done any research for this. I'll probably do that in a second and maybe add, like, a little editor's note. But it's darker in sections because it was built, you know, during World War II. So that's a big influence over a lot of the cities in Germany, at least from what I saw of the very little I saw of it, is things were destroyed. So there's a lot of newer stuff, and then there's the very small handful of older stuff that wasn't destroyed because it's historically protected. And I hope that thing's lying about my voice levels because they're really low, and it would suck to have to redo all of this. But after that, we headed down the Rhine River Valley, and I have 5 bazillion pictures of castles on hills. I have so many pictures of castles on hills through things. I think I took both mouse and cats. And yes, there are castles that are named mouse and cats. Both of them were puns off the name of the family who built them. This family built 3 castles, like, in a triangle shape around the thing. It's nuts. There's so many castles on the Rhine. Like, they're just everywhere. So it was a play off of that family's name is why they're called that. Do I have pictures of the... Yes, I do. And then there's a castle in the middle of the river, where so they'd, like, have these chains, like, strung across the bottom attached to wrenches so they could raise them up and prevent boats from going through, so they had to play the tax. And if you're like, why are there so many castles? There's so many castles so they could tax everybody traveling through the river, because it was a major, like, economic hotline for a very long time. So it's money. You need the money, man. But this castle, my favorite note about it was, it's like, yeah, it's really cool to look at, like, but you have to get, like, a boat to get to a tour to it, and blah, 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 blah. And honestly, it's not worth it, so don't bother, which is really funny. So we stayed in the small town of Bahra. And I definitely didn't say that right. I might go through and just put, like, the names of all of the towns written out on screen. So, like, if you know, you know. And you don't have to deal with my bad pronunciation, because... But we stayed there for our couple of nights on the Rhine. And I have at least one cute picture of the town. And the really cool thing about several of these towns is the intact medieval walls. So it's like, here's the town, but here's this like huge medieval wall, and here's like the lookout towers. Like, they're still there. That's super neat. And also there's a castle here, because of course there is. And our second night in the city, we stayed in the castle because it's a youth hostel. And as an American, I'm used to youth hostel meaning like young adults who are taking a break from college and figuring out what they want to do with their lives. Apparently, in Europe, youth hostel means there might be 30 small children running around the place, which there were, which we were not expecting. It's just like, well, okay. It's time to go for a walk and not be here, because they were having a great time. It just meant they were very loud. So, we also looked at a castle, like, up close and personal. Was at the town, a bit further north of this. I'm so sad. I had locations turned on and hopes my phone would be able to tell me, like, which things I took pictures of, but no. So this castle was completely destroyed by the French, which is true for most of these castles. Is this castle was here, it did this cool stuff, and then in roughly 100-year span, it was destroyed by the French. Just universal fact of the castles, destroyed by the French. So this one is still pretty ruined, so there's a lot of... It's mostly stone outlines. It wasn't really restored. It was bought by some guy who wanted to make it like an investment thing, and then like he couldn't go through it because there's a lot of really specific rules about how you can repair these castles, so he gave up, and it got given to the town by like the government. So it's super cool, very ruined. And then the next castle we went to... Oh, nope, that's a church. That's more churches. We went and we walked around the town after that, and I have like 5 bazillion church interior pictures because these things are gorgeous. Some more churches. The town with the... So the next town up has a super complete medieval wall. It's like... very, like, you can go walk around almost the entire way around the town. It's great. So we had, like, a walking tour for that, and it was really fun. But it's also really funny because there's a couple of towers at the west edge of town that, like, the city sold to private individuals, like, in exchange for them restoring it. And the people live there, so it's like, yeah, here's this medieval tower, but, like, the roof is, like, super obviously recently redone. And one of them has a draw gate entrance, which is just incredibly funny to me. And apparently there's some local story about, like, the owner's teenage kid having a, like, super rowdy graduation party. And so the neighbors called the cops, and they just drew up the drawbridge, and the cops couldn't get in, which is just incredible. I don't care if it isn't true. It's a great story. So then after that, the next day, we crossed the river. Oh, okay, no, okay. So the thing is, we saw 2 castles back to back, and they were very, very different castles. One of them was redone by, I really want to say Wilhelm IV? I think that's who did it. But it was redone to be, like, new and very, like, it's beautiful, cream-colored building. But, like, very not period accurate. It is what a rich guy wanted his fancy castle house to look like in the 1800s, I think. And then the other one, which is super historically kept up, is Marksburg, the only one whose name I can remember. And it's super well known for having a really cool armor collection. So I have like 3 pictures of the castle, and then everything else is interior pictures of armor, because of course it is. I like armor. And that one was really cool. My poor brother's phone did almost die there because it was raining, and so the castle is built on the bedrock of the hill. So like the top layer soils and all of that's been scraped away. The castle is built on the bedrock, and people have been walking through this castle, of course, for hundreds of years. So the rock is really slippery, and then it's raining. So luckily, my brother was the only person to fall, and not any of the elderly people who were also on the tour, because he's young. He was fine. And then after that, we headed over to the Mosel River Valley, and there we stayed in Kohim, which was super cute. It had a castle. Yeah, more castles. I like castles. I think they're super neat. And so I have so many pictures of this castle and the vineyard right next to it. And it's basically up on top of the town, tax the local people, blah, 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 blah. I have some neat interior pictures for this one, because this is one of the more interiorly decorated ones. So I have like I think it's like the main dining room, which has some paintings in it. I might not post those. Ceiling picture, exterior. I didn't take that many pictures of the inside. I never do. But we were not feeling super great towards the end of this stretch because, shocker of shockers, we got COVID. Because of course we did. So I have a couple of pictures to call home, and then there's like 5 days of nothing because we were sick. We found a place we could like stay for those days, and we quarantined, and we were smart, and we'd brought like an antiviral from the States so we could get over it faster. It was a fun time. So then we were done, and we went to Paris, which is architecturally really cool, and I like metros, but like this was like getting closer. For context, this trip was in end of March, ending like the very beginning of April, and that was because like we did not want to be there during like peak tourist like time. We didn't want it. No, not people. So, towards the end of this trip, when we were in Paris, there were more, like, the tourist season was starting to ramp up. Like, most things for it open in April, like April 1st. So it was like, yeah, this is great. So, we stayed in a cute little hotel in the Latin district. We were on the American terminology 7th floor. So, like, I had a good view. But that's a lot of stairs. And yes, there was an elevator, but the elevator fit about 2 people who liked each other very much. It is the smallest, most terrifying thing I have ever seen. So I have, unsurprisingly, pictures of Notre Dame, of course. And then we spent our first full day there just walking around the city. We walked around and we looked at Notre Dame. And then we headed up the river, and we looked at, like, the outside of the Louvre. We didn't go into the Louvre. We did go into the Musée d'Orsay, which was super cool if you guys like art in general, and Impressionist and Post-Impressionist in particular, because, oh boy, if you like those kinds of artists, they have a lot of it. And then we continued to this garden, and we looked at the Place de la Concorde. And if you're like, wait a second, you were there end of March, the protest. And the answer is yes, that was a concern, and it did cause some problems. But, like, we got there after one, and then, like, I don't remember if there was one after we left. But we missed it. We timed it right, so we weren't too overrun with that. So we went to the Concorde, and then we went to the Hotel des Invalides, like with the outside. That building is gorgeous. And then, of course, we headed over and we looked at the Eiffel Tower, which was pretty cool. It didn't feel real, honestly. I mean, like, it's just like you're seeing this thing and you're like, yeah, this is something I've heard about in my entire life, but, like, it doesn't feel real even though I'm here looking at it. And I think that was all we did for that day. Yeah, because we went to the museum that night. That was a long day. And then the next day, we went to there's this mall, Galeries Lafayette, which, I mean, like, it's a shopping mall if you're into, like, fashion and stuff. We weren't actually there for that part. The thing is, they have an outdoor balcony on the roof, and it is a great view of the city. And we were supposed to head out to Giverny to see Monet's garden, but the strikes meant there was a train there. There wasn't a train back, so we didn't go. So, yeah, and basically that was it. Was we went back and we flew back out of Amsterdam, and I'd love to say we had a perfectly uneventful trip back, but no, there were thunderstorms over Chicago O'Hare, which is where we came back into. So we spent like 2 hours in Indianapolis, and then we missed like our connecting flight and then the replacement to the connecting flight. So we took the third connecting flight, which left at 9 o'clock at night, and it took a super roundabout method to get to where we needed to go. So we got back to my brother's apartment at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was a trip. I'm glad I went, but I don't think I'd ever do it again. So let's just like get back into the mining and crafting. Look at that. Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, that edging really helps. And I think I might add either some darker or some lighter blocks to the edge of here for better differentiate the underlay. Like up there, that looks way better than that does. But all in all, I'm super happy with how this has turned out. So I want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope it'll definitely be shorter till the next one, since Legends should be out tomorrow. I won't say my video on it will be out tomorrow, because let's not take into account downloading times with my internet speed. So, hope you all have a good day. Bye-bye!